Have you ever walked past a cabinet or a closet and avoided opening it? Not because you forgot what's inside, but because you remember too well? Today, I want to gently walk with you through 5 things you can let go of. Not to erase the past, but to make room for something lighter. A home that feels more like peace and less like pressure. Rita, a quiet woman I met at a church luncheon, told me her one-bedroom home had started to feel smaller by the week. Not physically, emotionally. Her guest bed was covered in sweaters she hadn't worn since before her husband passed. The bathroom cabinet still lined with his shaving cream. I keep thinking I'll sort it, she said, but every time I try, it feels like saying goodbye all over again. So instead, she closes the doors and carries it quietly. What Rita said stayed with me, not because she didn't want to clear things, but because she didn't know where to begin. Maybe today we begin together with just one thing. Do you have clothes in your closet that still fit your body, but no longer feel like they fit your life? Maybe it's a blazer you wore when you managed a team, or a cocktail dress from your niece's wedding. Maybe it's a pair of jeans you keep because they might come back in style, or might fit again, even though you haven't reached for them in years. You look at them and remember who you were. But the real question is, do they still know who you are now? In a small home, every inch of space matters. But more than that, your energy matters. And sometimes the things we keep quietly drain us, reminders of who we were supposed to be instead of who we're allowed to be today. So here's something simple. When you're ready, stand in front of your closet and take out anything that gives you a twinge. Not joy, not comfort, just that feeling of should. Hold it. Touch the fabric. Ask it softly, do you belong to my life now, or are you part of something I've already lived through? Keep the clothes that love you back, the ones you actually wear, the ones that make you breathe easier, sit softer, smile more, the cardigan that feels like a hug, the pants that never pinch, the blouse that makes you feel quietly beautiful, even if you're just having tea alone on the porch. Let go of the ones that whisper guilt or pressure or someone else's expectations, the ones that no longer fit not just your body, but your rhythm, your pace, your truth. Marlene, a 68-year-old I met at a community center in Michigan, told me she still had skirts from the Reagan years. I used to twirl in these, she said, laughing. Now I just dust around them. She lived in a modest one-bedroom with a single closet that held not just clothes, but versions of her from decades ago. One Sunday, her granddaughter came over with bins and quiet music. They tried on everything, took pictures, laughed. She kept what made her feel good now. Donated 3 bags to a women's shelter nearby. It's the first time I've seen my closet and thought, that's me. Not who I was, just me, she told me afterward. I've had my own version of that. I kept a brown corduroy jacket for almost 20 years. It was Ruth's favorite. She said I looked like a professor she would have fallen for twice. We used to wear it on fall drives, leaves blowing through the windows. After she passed, I let it hang there. Season after season. Until one October morning, I took it off the hook, held it close, and whispered, "Thank you." I folded it slowly and placed it in the donation bag. And I swear to you, it felt like I finally made room to carry her differently. Not in fabric, but in me. The truth is, we don't hold on to old clothes because we're vain or careless. We hold on because they remind us of the woman we used to be, and parting with them feels like admitting she's gone. But she's not. She's still here. She just looks a little different now, maybe softer, maybe stronger, definitely wiser. You are not the dress in the back of the closet. You are not the suit from your old job. You are not the skirt that used to turn heads. You are the woman who lived through all those seasons and who still wakes up every day becoming something new. If it no longer knows who you are, maybe it's time to let it go. And once your closet starts to breathe, you might feel something else too. that even your kitchen drawers are full of things that no longer match the way you live. Let's go there next. Have you ever opened a kitchen drawer and felt a pang? Not because it was messy, but because of all the things you thought you should use but never did? That yogurt maker from QVC, the fondue pot you brought home after watching a cooking show, the waffle iron still in the box, waiting for a Saturday morning that never came. In a small kitchen, space is gold, and yet we often let it fill with guilt disguised as gadgets, tools we don't use but also don't release because someone gave them to us or we once imagined ourselves using them more. We tell ourselves, maybe when I have more energy, or maybe when the grandkids visit, but deep down, we know that season has passed, and that's okay. Here's a gentle step you can take. One drawer at a time. Pull everything out. Touch each item. Ask it honestly. Do I use this now? Or do I just feel guilty for not using it? Keep what truly serves your day-to-day life. The can opener that fits your hand. The wooden spoon that stirs soup on quiet evenings. Let go of anything that feels like pressure in disguise. Donate working gadgets to a church kitchen, a shelter, or a local community pantry. Let them serve where they're needed, not where they weigh you down. Nancy, a 70-year-old from Oregon, told me she had an entire cabinet full of baking pans, even though she hadn't baked since her arthritis got worse. They remind me of who I used to be, she said, back when birthdays meant 3-layer cakes and homemade frosting. One day, with her daughter's help, she picked out the 2 pans she still used for brownies and cornbread. The rest, bundt pans, tart tins, cookie sheets, she gave to a young single mom from her church. I thought it would feel like failure, she said, but it felt like handing the joy forward. I've walked that road too. I kept a sandwich press I bought during one of those optimistic moments when I thought I'd become a guy who made fancy lunches. It sat on the top shelf, untouched for 7 years. Every time I saw it, I felt that familiar twinge. Maybe one day. But one day I looked at it and said, that's not me anymore, and maybe it never was. Letting it go didn't just free up space. It freed me from the version of myself I thought I needed to become. The truth is, most of these gadgets weren't about cooking. They were about hope, about energy, about being needed, about feeling like we still had big, busy lives to serve. And maybe we don't host like we used to. Maybe our hands don't do what they used to. But what we bring to the table now, our stories, our presence, our patience, that's worth more than a countertop full of machines. You don't owe your space to the version of you that never showed up. And once the drawers start to breathe, we start to feel something shift. It's not just the things. It's what they represent. And sometimes it's not clutter at all. Sometimes it's decorations that never felt like ours to begin with. Some rooms still look like the woman you were 20 years ago, before you changed, softened, slowed down. Maybe the walls are covered in art from a style you no longer love. Maybe there are figurines on the shelf you never picked, never cared for, but somehow kept because they filled the space, or because they were gifts, or because it felt easier to keep them than to ask, do I still want this here? In a small home, visual noise can be just as heavy as physical clutter. Every item we see, every frame, every vase, every live, laugh, love sign takes up emotional space. It tells a story. But sometimes that story no longer matches the life we're living. And that's not wrong. It's just worth noticing. Here's something gentle to try. Walk through your home and look, not with guilt, but with curiosity. Ask, does this feel like me? Not, did someone give it to me? Not, was it expensive? Not even, is it still in good shape? Simply, do I still want this in my life? If the answer is no, thank it and let it go. Offer it to someone through a church sale, a local donation center, or even a neighbor who's starting fresh. Let it have a new story with someone who truly sees it. Diana, a 74-year-old retired nurse from Arizona, told me she once filled her home with farmhouse decor. Everyone was into it, she said. I didn't even like cows, but somehow I had cow print curtains. Over time, it began to weigh on her, not because it was wrong, but because it wasn't her. She sold most of it at a community garage sale, replaced it with soft desert tones, simple lines, one painting of red rocks at sunset. Now my home feels like my breath, she told me. It doesn't just look nice, it feels honest. I had a moment like that too. For years, there was a lighthouse painting in my hallway. Ruth picked it. I never liked it, but I never said so. After she passed, I kept it as a way to honor her. But each time I walked by, it didn't bring peace, it brought weight. One day I stood in front of it and whispered, "Thank you for being part of our wall." Then I wrapped it up and replaced it with a photo she took of the two of us by the lake. And you know what? It didn't feel like losing her. It felt like finally seeing her. We often believe that decorating is just about filling space, but really, it's about choosing what echoes back to us when we sit in the quiet. Your home doesn't need to impress anyone. It doesn't need to match a magazine. It just needs to reflect you, who you are now, what brings you softness, what makes you breathe deeper when you come home. Your home shouldn't be a museum of who you were. It should be a mirror of who you are becoming. And when your shelves and walls begin to reflect the present, you'll start noticing something else. That not everything weighing us down is visible. Some of it hides in drawers, folders, and file boxes, quiet, flat, and full of stories we may no longer need to carry. Some of the things that weigh us down the most don't take up much space. They're flat, quiet, tucked away in drawers, file boxes, maybe even old cookie tins, paper, so ordinary, so unassuming, and yet it holds decades of choices, emotions, and stories we haven't looked at in years. You know the drawer I mean, the one you say you'll get to next week. It holds expired coupons, manuals for toasters you don't own anymore, old electric bills, stacks of birthday cards from people who are no longer in your life. Somewhere in there is a yellowing phone bill from 1998, and you're not quite sure why it's still there. In a small home, paper clutter doesn't just take up space, it clutters the mind. It whispers, "just in case," when we walk by. And what if you need this when we try to sleep? But most of the time, we never do. So here's something to try. Set a timer for 20 minutes. Pick one spot, not the whole house, not even the whole file cabinet, just one drawer, one pile. Take a deep breath and ask each page, do I need you in my life today? Not yesterday, not someday, but today. If the answer is no, thank it for serving its time and let it go. You don't need a file folder for every chapter of your life, just like you don't need to keep every ticket stub to remember the movie. Keep the essentials: birth certificates, wills, insurance, a few letters that make your chest feel warm. The rest, you have permission to release it. I met Susan at a community library event in Colorado Springs. She was 76, lived in a lovely one-bedroom, and confessed her hallway closet was packed with paper memories, old tax returns, expired health records, grocery lists from the early 2000s. I kept them because I thought they proved something, she said, that I was doing life right, that I was responsible. When we sat down together, we went through one box, just one. She kept the folder with her husband's final handwritten note and a few postcards from their road trips. Everything else gone. I don't feel irresponsible, she told me. I feel free. I've been there too. I used to keep every letter Ruth and I ever exchanged, from our early dating days through our years raising kids. There were hundreds, most of them stored in an old hat box that smelled like cedar and ink. I loved those letters. But at some point, I realized I didn't need to read all of them to feel her with me. I chose 10. Just 10. The ones that made me smile or weep. I scanned the others and burned the originals one cool evening in the fireplace. And I sat with her memory, not in paper, but in peace. Because when we keep too much paper, what we're really afraid of, me, is forgetting. Forgetting names, dates, feelings. But here's something I've come to believe. The things that truly matter don't fade with ink. They live in the body, in the way we speak, in what we pass down. Paper keeps records, but you keep the meaning. And once you clear that drawer, you may find something unexpected. The weight lifts, not just in your home, but in your shoulders, in your breath. You're not less prepared. You're more present. The noise quiets. The pressure fades. And what's left is space. For letters that still make you feel something. For new memories. For lightness. Letting go of old paper isn't careless. It's kind. It tells your future self, I trust you now. And what a beautiful thing that is. But not everything we keep comes from our past. Some of it was handed to us, wrapped in ribbon, offered with love, and yet never quite ours. Let's talk about the gifts we never chose but still feel bound to keep. There's a certain kind of object that's hardest to part with. Not because we love it, but because someone else did. It might be a vase from a coworker you haven't seen in 20 years. A teacup from your sister-in-law still in its box. A decorative plate that never matched your taste, but your daughter gave it to you with such pride. You never really chose these things, but they sit quietly on your shelf, gathering dust. In guilt. In a small house, everything you keep should earn its place, not with obligation, but with joy. If you're holding on to something just because it was a gift, I want to tell you this. Your love for the person doesn't live in the object. It never did. Letting go of the item doesn't mean you're rejecting the memory. It means you're honoring your space. Try this. Walk through your home and spot the items you've kept only out of guilt. You'll feel it right away. The slight tug in your chest when you look at it. Ask yourself, would I keep this if no one ever saw it again? If the answer is no, it's okay to release it, bless it, donate it. Let it find someone who truly needs or loves it. Elaine, a 69-year-old from Vermont, told me she had an entire bookshelf filled with knickknacks from friends and extended family. Little angels, glass apples, ceramic birds, she said. Some were beautiful. Most weren't me. But she felt guilty getting rid of them. They meant well, she whispered. When her grandson came to help her downsize, he said something simple. Grandma, if it doesn't make you happy, it's not really a gift anymore. She chose 3 items she loved. The rest went to a local church thrift shop. Now, she said, I walk by that shelf and smile, not because of what's there, but because I finally chose it. I had a version of that too. Someone once gave Ruth and me a massive crystal fruit bowl as a wedding gift. Heavy, ornate, never quite our style. But we kept it out of politeness for decades. After she passed, I held it in my hands one morning and asked myself, would she want me to keep this out of guilt? The answer was so clear, it almost made me laugh. I donated it to a retirement home that used it for Sunday centerpieces. And I brought home a simple wooden bowl she once picked up from a farmer's market. That one still holds oranges on my kitchen counter. That one feels like her. Here's what I've come to believe. We don't owe our shelves to anyone else's taste. The best gifts are the ones that fit our lives, not just our wrapping paper. And if something came into your home with love, then you can let it leave the same way. A true gift doesn't ask to be kept. It asks to be appreciated and then released. When we finally give ourselves permission to release the objects we never truly chose, we also release the guilt tied to them. And in its place, something gentler arrives, gratitude for the people, and freedom from the pressure. Because in the end, peace isn't found in a perfectly arranged room. It's found in a space where every item has meaning. And no item holds you hostage. And maybe, now that we've cleared the clothes, the gadgets, the paper, and the guilt, it's time to talk about something even deeper, what this journey is really about. Not what we're letting go of, but what we're making space for. If you've stayed with me this long, you already know. This isn't really about decluttering, not in the way most people talk about it. It's not about minimalist white rooms or counting how many sweaters you have. It's about noticing, about choosing, gently and honestly. It's about releasing what no longer belongs to the version of you that's here now. Making tea in the morning light, reading by the window in the afternoon, breathing easier in the space you've made your own. Peace doesn't come from empty rooms. It comes from rooms that feel honest, where every object has a reason, where the shelves aren't packed, but they aren't hollow either, where there's room to sit, room to think, room to feel, where you walk in and think, not, this looks nice, but this feels like me. Letting go isn't loss. It's alignment. It's asking your home to reflect your now, not your past. And when you do that, even in tiny moments, you start to feel it. The shift, the breath, the relief. So here's something small, something gentle you can do tonight. Pick one drawer, one shelf, one object. Hold it in your hand, feel its weight. Remember where it came from, and then ask softly, not with pressure, but with care. Do I still need to carry you? If the answer is no, then let it go in kindness. Thank it, bless it, pass it on, because the real work isn't in clearing things. It's in claiming space for who you are now, for the quiet joy of living with less noise and more meaning. And if this video stirred something in you, I'd love to know. What's one thing you're ready to let go of? Just one. Tell me in the comments. I read every story. And if this felt like a conversation you needed, send it to someone who might need it too. That's how we share peace. Not in grand gestures, but in small truths passed gently from one hand to another. You're not losing memories. You're not letting go of love. You're simply making space for what matters now. And that, my friend, is how we begin again.